Okay, guys, so if you found out that your premier would be considering and looking into the legality of having to ban public prayer, I think a lot of Canadians would be okay with such a thing. And what started, I think, this whole freaking thing is there have been incidences, especially where I used to live, in my old neck of the woods. There's one specific school where all the bad kids would go, and there was students that were praying in class, and I'm not sure if the teacher was leading it, guiding it, or encouraging them to do it. So, depending on what situation it's in, it's not respecting the secular law that is pretty much enshrined here in Quebec. And the other thing that I think really set this whole thing off, for me, in my opinion, has to do with fuzzy muzzies that are out praying in the streets of Montreal. But when we say praying in the streets, we're talking about blocking people from going somewhere. So everybody has their titties in a bit of a fucking twist with this. So I have mixed emotions about this because looking back from my own transition from being a Catholic, atheist, agnostic to being a Wiccan, and then period just kind of going through paganism, and then uh really stopping that shit completely until I got back into occultism, practicing magic, and being on the left hand path. My transition has been very interesting, and I never gave myself the chance to allow myself to see how meaningful spirituality can be because I never resonated with any of the things. No, I thought I did, but I needed to look. I needed something a little bit more of my own energy flow that I could understand and resonate with on a very deep profound level. And I think I finally found it. It's been working for me, and there's always an evolution. So from there, I never really gave myself the chance to find something meaningful until it's in your life. And you can understand that feeling when it comes to other people. But the thing is, with me, being a solo practitioner, whenever I see these things, there's no place for me to do any meditation. Like, I'm not even part of a circle, a coven, an order, none of that. I fly solo. So those things don't apply to me, but what I find really funny about the situation is like every conversation that we have here in Quebec concerning religion, there's always a lack of nuance, and it's always Muslims that are going to get talked about. It's always done because of the most targeted, they're the ones with the most attention. I think it's also done on purpose. Even I fucking noticed this way back in the day. Um, but for me, it's more about you could still have your secularism while still respecting the uh, the innate natural rights that people have, whether Quebecers want to admit it or not. And then if you want to start having to ban certain things in public, well, what else should we be banning? And why are we going to the government to be banning certain things? And my thing is, even if you do ban it, how are you going to enforce it? You're going to get people fines. You're going to like throw them in the Gulag and make them go through some secular re-education camp, like something like that. So how much of it, what is the legality behind this whole thing? I think a lot of people are getting their titties in a fucking twist, and there are some people who are outsiders that will look at this and say, I don't like Lego, but I actually agree with him on this. And for me, it's like, okay, we could go about it like that, but I have my skepticism because it is Lego after all. Once upon a time, for example, you weren't allowed to be wearing a mask in public or covering your face from being identified while you're protesting. And yet, all of a sudden, you have the Black Bloc, you have Antifa, you have all of these paid actors that are covering their faces while they're peacefully protesting, and nobody bats an eye on that one. So if we're just going to go from the religious conversation, then we're going to have to talk about other things concerning freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and all this stuff. You're not just going to end the conversation of freedom of religion, but also the freedom from religion. And what I find so funny about the situation is we're always talking about the big three. We're always talking about Christianity and Islam and the koshers and stuff. We're always talking about them. But has anyone else fucking noticed that there's other spiritual paths that some people might just be doing rituals in public? I mean, like, what? Because I'm being serious. Like, there are some people that are pagans, small, but yet it's still fucking valid. In terms of they're doing their rituals in public, they might be doing it on specific days, specific nights, at a specific time, for whatever fucking reason. But there is a difference between someone who is praying on their own time in school, as long as it's not guided by somebody who is a teacher who's in that position of power, picking one religion over another. But if you're in a comparative religions class, that's a different story. See, that I'm okay with. What I do not like about this conversation is you're going to be ignoring the fact of the severity, okay? It is not acceptable for people to be praying and they're blocking the fucking streets. That's the thing that people are not getting. People are going to be looking at this and saying that we could call out Islamophobia, but the Lego government are not going to be admitting that we have systemic racism and stuff like that. Well, you guys definitely are on the ball about with bigotry and discrimination against the Anglophones, but yet we don't fucking matter. We don't care. We're only useful until we're not. But for me, at the end of the night, it's more like those are two different things, my friends. You're talking about, this is a situation where you're talking about comparing apples to oranges. The only thing that they have in common is that they're both fruit, but they're not the fucking same. Yeah, one is more round, the other one is round with a few little bumps along the way, right? But they're still fruit. You know, you're talking about prayer here, talking about prayer there, and this and that, but if it's a whole bunch of people that are out blocking the fucking streets, and you're just stopping people from commuting and doing stuff like that, then yeah, there's a bit of a problem. But what I find really hilarious is that everybody's so quick to go to the fucking government and be okay with stuff like this. But during the pandemic, when people were airing out their grievances and they were actually peacefully protesting, some of these people weren't allowed to be in an X amount of feet from, let's say, a hospital or a clinic, airing out their grievances. They weren't allowed that. That was Lego and Company that decided to do that. You see, everyone is for something, but yet when it comes to something else, you guys overlook it. Or at least you're being memory hold because you just don't remember certain things that have happened in the past. I know that the days are getting faster. I mean, it's our perception of time. The older you get, the time becomes more fast. I mean, time is nothing but a fucking illusion. It's just you becoming more aware of things. But the thing is, I have my, I'm skeptical of this. I'm skeptical in the sense of, it sounds great on paper, but everyone's gonna be bitch-moaning and complaining about comparing, certain things that in one respect, it's a little bit severe and it technically is illegal. Like, again, as I stated, having to pray in public, but if it's a big amount of people that are praying and they're blocking the fucking streets and stopping people from having that freedom of movement, once again, we had curfews here. We weren't allowed to go out during the flu season. And guess what? People are sick now. It's a cold and flu season. Where are your mask mandates? Guys, where's the social distance? What happened? We don't want to kill grandma, but we forgot about that. And also, what about all the fucking pro-Palestinian rioters and losers, well, something Palestine losers, that are out blocking the fucking streets. See, those guys, no, there's no there's no punishment for them. You see what I mean? Everyone's going to lose sight of the legality behind this. And of course, the lamestream media is just going to turn this into, oh, Quebec doesn't like Muslims. Quebec doesn't like Muslims. They're intolerant of Muslims. A lot of yous are intolerant of any individual that does not hold the same views as everybody else. We cannot sit here and talk about you guys having to, living in Quebec, our way of life have to be respected, but yet you're not respecting the other ways of other people. I mean, there is going to be some form of integration, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up my entire identity to only be a language Nazi and who I should be listening to on Radio Canada or watching TVA and knowing who's like the familiar face. I don't mean stuff like that. Like, that shit's bullshit. Or even being into hockey. I'm not talking about that type of assimilation. You know, you know both languages, you pay your taxes, you mind your business, and yeah, there are some places where I do agree that that there are places where those things merited such a thing. And yet, why are they not being used? Who are these fucking people that are they are doing something illegal? So, I mean, it's a very messy thing of what we're talking about here. It's a messy thing. Are you going to ban all public prayer? Are you going to ban all of this, all of that? Well, people actually made a few good points. People are going to turn around and say, well, why don't we just ban smoking altogether? What about people that are out on the streets, for example, that are topless? What about drinking in public? Well, I mean, those things are already regulated. They're not necessarily part of your religion, unless you're like a flying spaghetti monster type of thing and Pastafarian, you know. Where's my colander? I missed out on that one. This would have been a good opportunity. So, I mean, things are pretty well defined regardless. So, you know, it's going to be a very interesting situation. Also, for the fact that we're getting close to the holidays. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. Quebec has to find its ass with both hands, and yet we still have the same old fucking problem as we did for the last 4 years. You guys still can't figure out the healthcare system. You guys can't figure it out, can you? Your pretend country is looking very lame, my friends. It's looking very lame. You can't figure that out. And yet we're gonna have this conversation about the right to religion and from religion, all that good shit. Okay, yeah. Leave it up to Quebec to actually be the master of their own domain when they can't master the basics of running a country. Alright, sure. Peace out.